Hello and welcome to the Amateur Skeptics Podcast, number 80. I'm your host, Brian. My co-hosts tonight, Mac.
Hello, everyone.
And Ian.
Good evening, everybody.
How are you doing this evening?
Yeah, you seriously vamped that, didn't you, Ian?
Yeah, I get more airtime.
Oh, is that what it is? You need more airtime?
Yep.
Shut up.
Yeah.
All right, so let's do announcements real quick. You can find them on our webpage at amateurskeptics.com.
That was pretty quick.
Yeah, thank you. So, what's everybody doing?
We're doing flood recovery over here.
Again? Is this ever going to stop?
What happened this time was that the main line clogged and water came down from upstairs into the main line, and because it didn't have anywhere to go, it tried to equalize pressure by coming up through our sink and tried to essentially flow out over the sink and fill the apartment up to the level of the sink. But fortunately, it did not get that opportunity. There wasn't enough water to actually equalize the pressure and flow up to the level of the sink, because that would have been uncomfortable.
Well,
because the sink is like 3 feet off the ground or 4 feet off the ground.
It's just that you seem to have reoccurring flooding issues.
Yeah, it's a basement apartment.
Yes, but you live on a hill.
Yes.
It's not like
this water was following the path of least resistance.
Yeah, well, it's not like you're below a water table or, something like that. These are like foundation issues.
I've never seen a water table. I don't know what you do to eat off of one. I imagine it would stay clean, though.
You need to get out to some daycare centers. I've seen.
Yeah, they have water tables.
Okay. I'll check that out. Although not actually having human children would make it a little weird for me to go to a daycare center.
Yeah, actually, that would be creepy.
Yeah. Which, is not a deal breaker for me.
No. And what's going on with you, Ian?
Is not a deal breaker.
Not too much here. Same old. Family stuff, keeping busy.
Yeah.
Getting ready. We got AnomalyCon, the Steampunk Convention at the end of this month. We're looking forward to that.
Yeah, AnomalyCon. Okay. We're going to the Comic-Con with you.
Yeah, that'll be in the summer. That'll be a blast. If even half the people that are telling us they plan on going show up, we're going to have a big crowd to hang out with there.
Yeah, well, we bought tickets, so
cool.
Yeah, so we're definitely on our go. We paid our dues.
So have you been keeping up with everyone who's showing up?
No.
You check it out. They keep adding to the lineup. Erin Gray, I think, is one of the latest from Buck Rogers. Remember her?
Yep.
Oh, I'll never forget her.
I'll bet she doesn't look the same anymore.
No.
She's still, for her age. She
had pretty good bone structure.
He's kept her look, because he's now doing The Guild. I don't know if you guys, Felicia Day's web series, The Guild. It's hysterical. I highly recommend it. And Felicia Day will be there as well.
Okay.
But Erin Gray has a role in that, and she has really kept her figure. Really, she's still, for her age, definitely, she's attractive.
All right. So that'll be fun.
Well, you know who else has kept her figure? Linda Carter's kept her figure pretty well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Talking of people from the same era, I haven't seen Catherine Bach in quite some time. So
this is the men's Amateur Skeptic show this evening, clearly.
Yes. Which, we used to have that, actually.
Well, once upon a time.
Yeah. Kimberly declined to join us tonight because she doesn't like to talk about guns.
No, that's not true at all.
She does like to talk about guns?
That's not why. She had a schedule change. That is not true.
That's okay. She can take up the fact that I'm telling lies.
Yeah.
I also got one of the most incredibly uplifting rejection letters ever for one of my stories.
Oh, really?
It's the story is called Of Gods and Zombies. It's my first try at a zombie story. But okay. This is almost an amazingly good story. The premise, characters, and dialogue are brilliant. The major shortcoming of the story is the combat sequences. And that was a rejection letter. I'm like,
that's pretty good because those are the hardest to write. I mean, combat sequences in a lot of books suck.
Well, a lot of times the combat sequences you get, the writer doesn't really have the visualization of the combat sequence. I would go out and fight some zombies and some gods.
Well, no, I took the advice and edited it and sent it out to the next market on my list, but it was still one of those rejection letters that say you almost have it right. You're so close to doing what needs to be done. It's like
what I liked about that is that it's not just go fuck yourself.
Yeah,
well,
you get that a lot.
Criticism.
Yeah, it was productive. So that's great when you can get somebody to do that. But how often does that really happen?
I know. So I'm going to promote Waylines magazine. They've not bought anything from me yet, but that kind of rejection letter, it makes me feel like they're market that cares. So Waylines magazine. Check them out.
Cool.
All right. Well, as we said earlier, we are going to talk about guns, gun myths, statistics, and lies.
And waffles.
And waffles. And pizza.
And pizza.
All right. So go ahead and... I have commentary on a lot of this crap, but go ahead and start with your first one.
There's a lot to have commentary on. That's the thing. That's one reason why this is actually a good, really timely topic. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on with it right now. And so we'll start on...
Everybody's talking about it, which kind of makes it boring at some point.
Yeah.
I've got some fatigue here.
Yeah. So the first thing I threw up here was the top 10 gun myths. Now, both times Obama's gotten elected to the office of president, one of the first things that happened was this whole big fanatical thing of, they're going to take our guns away, we have to go and buy up guns, and the gun dealers and manufacturers have been loving it because the sales have skyrocketed every time Obama got elected.
Now, I got to say, that is one of the best times that when I went to the gun show was right after he got elected, because I had been to the gun shows prior, and you go around and you look, but this time all the fanatics were there, and they were walking out with cases of ammo. And the funniest part about it is my dad was one of these fuckers.
So anyways, in the gun myths, they go over the top 10. The number one is, I just said, they're coming for your guns. And the fact is, there's no way they could do that. That's what they explained it. We don't know exactly how many guns are in the hands of the American public. There's no way to find that out. And according to this, they're estimating that law enforcement and military have about 40 million guns. Civilian-wise, 310 million approximately.
Okay, but here's the problem. Here's the problem is that we don't have tanks.
Yeah.
And we don't have helicopters with mounted guns and stuff like that.
Right, so at that point, no amount of gun sales will fix that.
There you go. See, so we're damned if we do, we're damned if we don't.
Yeah, as George Carlin said, the Army has all the flamethrowers.
So there's a level of silliness to being worried about that when you can't match the real, actual military capabilities. No matter how lenient they get on gun control, you can't go and buy a tank. That just isn't going to happen.
Right,
but
although
a lot of the conflicts that have taken place between superiorly armed and inferiorly armed people, in terms of guerrilla conflicts, the inferiorly armed people get more clever and do a lot more damage than they're expected to.
Okay, but here's the thing. There's still something to be said for training. And these people, these military and police officers who have these guns are better trained than the average Yahoo with a pistol.
Yeah.
So, but it's not a great argument either way. I mean, we can go back and forth on this forever.
And that's one of the things on this whole thing. I think a lot of this gets a bit...
right, so we're never really going to know unless we try it.
Yahoo with a pistol is he's no longer allowed to work from home. Since he worked for Yahoo.
But here's the thing, is that ultimately this situation, we're not going to know until they actually try it. So I'd like for some of these, people, these preppers and stuff that are collecting all these guns to give it a try and let's see what happens. Just saying.
Yeah. And the thing is, there's definitely one of those political things where there has been nothing coming from the Obama administration even suggesting that this is anything they're considering. So it gets really crazy when you look at that. Hello?
Yeah, we're here. We're mesmerized by your statistics.
So then it goes into guns don't kill people, people kill people, and talking about how actually it does seem to be a link between gun ownership and gun deaths by state. Basically, the more guns that are in the state, the more likely there will be gun deaths.
That's just basic. That's basic statistics. The more guns there are, the more likely there will be gun deaths.
Okay, yeah, but these have to be per capita, and I'm not sure exactly who made up these statistics. But we have stuff later on that contradicts it, but which kind of speaks to the whole problem.
And the other thing about statistics is a lot of the data you get out of statistics happens to be in how you lay them out.
Listen, people are massaging this crap. You can, if I want to make the opposite, if I want to make an anti statistic to your statistic, I'll just go find some different statistics and mash them together, and that's what's happening. I mean,
well, that's one problem with the.
It's a huge problem, and right now I was reading about this online, trying to find out different stuff. It's absolutely ridiculous to try and put together a whole coherent picture because nothing has been done that way.
So yeah, it shows the statistics on that. So it talks about Northern society being a polite society and how apparently drivers who carry guns are actually more likely than unarmed drivers to be aggressive. Don't know quite how some of that goes. More good guys with guns can stop rampaging bad guys. It talks about the chance that a shooting at an ER involves guns taken from guards is 1 in 5. So
yeah, my whole problem, and we've talked about this before, is the idea that if everybody has guns, that we're all better protected. Well, we're not. We're all in more danger because it's a whole bunch of people without proper training having these things, and we know that. And we've seen a trend every time that an actual civilian in these situations stops a crime. It's usually an ex-military or ex-police officer.
Yeah. And actually, we'll talk about the NRA later. The NRA was initially founded in order to help the civilians learn how to use guns better, because basically one of the reasons the North wasn't doing so well in the Civil War was because in the North, where the city folk, you didn't really have guns. In the South, you were pretty much the moment you could start walking, you were handed a gun and taught how to use it.
Yep.
So the NRA
you had to use it in a lot of cases to feed yourself.
Yeah. So the NRA was basically founded to say, hey, let's start making sure everyone knows how to use a gun.
Right, and in the beginning, they were all for gun control too.
Yeah.
They were for people learning to shoot better. It was a sharpshooting organization originally. That was what they were. That's what they were about. Is better use of guns, knowing how to hit your target.
Well, the key word here is National Rifle Association.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But they got taken over later.
They've got handguns in there now too.
Well, because they got taken over by activists who wanted to use them as a political arm, and that's what's happened.
Yep.
So we can talk about how they were founded, but what they are now is different. They have evolved into something else.
Right.
So then it talks about keeping guns at home makes you safer, and it goes into statistics that for every gun that is used in self-defense, there are 7 assaults or murders, 11 suicide attempts, and 4 accidents involving guns in and around the home. So basically, and that's the statistic that I've seen many times, is you are much more likely to draw and accidentally shoot on a family member or friend than you are to ever draw your gun on an actual criminal. And that, I believe, I've read some stories on that, where a guy, the funniest one was the girlfriend was staying at the guy's apartment, and I guess in the middle of the night she gets up to, get a drink and stuff, and he grabs the gun and ends up shooting his girlfriend because he's not used to someone else being in the house.
Yeah, well, there's something else going on there. But anyway,
I imagine he didn't get a whole lot of sleepovers in the future.
Well, that whole situation is hanky. I don't know that he's lying, but come on.
This bugs me. At the bottom of myth number 5, in one experiment, 1/3 of 8 to 12-year-old boys who found a handgun pulled the trigger. Okay.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
I'm guessing they're talking in that experiment that it was an unloaded gun.
I don't know. Yeah, here's the thing is, I have guns in the house, and they don't make me feel safer. In fact, they're locked up and unloaded, and I mean, there's no way I would keep a loaded gun in the house. It's just stupid.
And it talks about carrying guns for self-defense making it safer, women with guns being safer. Goes into the vicious, violent video games deserve more blame.
Which is bullshit. I mean, they don't have any evidence for that, and every time they've tried to do that study, it backfires on them. So,
more and more Americans are becoming gun owners.
And that's not true either. Less and less people are becoming gun owners. It's just that people who own guns are buying more of them.
Yep.
So we're selling more guns, but fewer people are actually owning them. So that's wrong based on other statistics that I've seen.
And the final myth is we don't need more gun laws, we just need to enforce the ones we have, which is actually, I think, a lot of what we're talking about
there's
tonight.
Some truth to that, for sure.
Because there's been a lot of debate over that one. And that's kind of one of the key things that seems to be happening right now. And that, I think, will be most of what we end up talking about, is what gun laws are there and what law,
Well, we need to talk about the gun laws that Colorado's looking at passing, and
Well, they just did today, actually.
Did they actually? Are they passed?
The Senate passed the universal gun check, background check law for Colorado.
That one I thought was fine.
That went through.
What? Okay, yeah, but there's three of them. So there's the universal gun check. There's the limit on assault rifles and only 15 bullets per clip. Right? There's that one, and then there's one that says it is illegal for a citizen to sell another citizen a gun. And okay, in theory that sounds good, but in practice they need to find a way to do it, because you shouldn't sell that to somebody who hasn't had a background check. They need to find a way to facilitate that transference.
Does that mean that we need to buy our guns from illegal immigrants now?
Right, maybe. But so I have issue with that one, and then the other one.
It's the way it's phrased.
The other one that I have issues.
Are these gun dealers not citizens?
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
It's a very slippery slope. It's the way it's phrased. It's a very bad
I haven't
thing.
read the actual legislation. The other one is the law. What they want to do is make it so that if you sell an assault rifle and it's used to hurt somebody else, you're liable because you sold it. And it's that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So
all right.
And that's one of the problems with some of what's going on. The next story is one that obviously came out due to the incident in Florida.
One point I'd like to take up here: the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives—they're no longer the ATF now; they're the ATFE. Is that my understanding? Dead silence.
I don't know.
Well, if they're the ATFE, I think they should probably rearrange those initials so their jackets say "Fate" on the back. But that's my thought. Just because it'd be cooler.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I just wasn't aware that ATF also covered. I guess I knew they covered explosives, but I didn't know that they'd actually added that to the name, and this seems to imply that they have.
I don't know. Maybe they have. So go on to this next one, Ian.
Okay, so the next one basically got a lot of attention, not from itself, but because of the whole Tyvin Martin thing in Florida recently.
Yeah.
Which I'm not going to cover that here, especially since it's an active case, and I don't want us to be getting into that. But instead, this one shows actually in the past we've talked about the castle laws, the stand your ground law stuff, and this one shows the abuse of it straight out. When I first read the story before there was actually a verdict, I'm saying okay, this is messed up. So what happened? Go ahead.
We talked about the stand your ground law in our podcast about castle laws.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this shows definitely and the possible abuse of those. And that's what, So in Huffman, Texas, you had two neighbors that apparently weren't quite getting along. And the younger neighbor, basically, he was throwing a party. I believe, what was the party for? He was having a party. I think it was his wife's birthday, if I remember correctly. And they had the music on. They had company over. A lot of stuff going on. So the one neighbor, trying to find names.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah. So the one neighbor basically comes over and says some stuff and goes back in his house, comes out with a gun. And he called 911. And as he's walking, not on his property, to the other person's property, he's saying stuff like, "Stop there, don't come any closer, I'm in fear for my life is in danger," saying these things. And the people at the party are like, "What the hell? Okay, listen, chill, let's try and work this out." And he ended up shooting 3 people, killing one of them. His neighbor's the one he actually killed. And he basically tried to use the stand your ground law, saying, I was defending myself.
Yeah, I know. And he was found guilty.
Yes,
well,
found guilty.
He recorded his own evidence.
Yeah, that's the whole thing.
If you look at what he was saying, my guess is he took a class to have a concealed weapon. And they more than likely taught him the basics of the stand your ground. And said, okay, you need to tell them, listen, you need to tell them to hold it, stop, and, you can only do it when you feel your life's in danger, kind of stuff like that. And so he figured, if I call 911 and say this stuff, that will justify me standing my ground.
Well, and that's what the court seemed to think, too.
Yeah. And they're looking at you walked onto your neighbor's property, which first off means you've left your property.
Which means he didn't really have a right to be there.
Right.
One of the tenets of the stand your ground law is you have to have a right. You have to have a right to be there under reasonable circumstances.
And then he was clearly being the aggressor. I mean, the other people were, all the reports say they were basically telling him, hey, let's calm down, let's settle this. They weren't quite sure what the hell was going on. But they clearly weren't doing anything aggressive towards him. He was just pissed off because they weren't doing what he wanted.
Well, I wouldn't say clearly, but it certainly doesn't appear that way.
So,
I mean, we don't have a lot.
Are we saying that he's a bad criminal, or are we saying that he needs to be a better video editor?
Yeah, I don't know.
But so this is definitely one of those cases where someone tried to abuse the system and tried to abuse the laws that are out there that actually are there for a reason.
Allegedly.
And luckily, I'm very glad to see he did not get away with it.
Right. I mean, he's going to appeal. I don't think that he's going to get very far.
Yeah.
This case seems to look like, I mean, they disagreed with his assessment of the situation and him being in danger.
Yeah, I think they disagreed with good cause.
It would seem that way.
I'm glad to see that, because hopefully these other people say, okay, maybe I don't have as much power with the Sand Duke gun laws as I think I do.
Yeah, how many of these things do we want to cover?
What do we have next? Piers Morgan. Okay.
Oh,
the Piers Morgan stuff leads to so many other things. What?
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, do the Piers Morgan stuff.
So, Piers Morgan, I don't know if you know who he is.
I do.
He is a British talent. I'm not quite sure what he's known for, per se, but he has his own little show. And so he invited a radio host, Alex Jones, who is very pro-gun.
No, wait a second. Didn't he invite him because of what he didn't he prior to this say that basically Piers Morgan should be kicked out of the country for things that he had said? So I mean, he basically brought this guy onto his show expecting an antagonist.
Yeah, well, he wanted to have an actual debate and exchange with the guy.
I don't know about that. I'm not a huge fan of Piers Morgan. I don't always agree with him. I mean, I definitely don't want him out of the country, right? But I'm not saying I always like the way that he handles things.
Piers Morgan's kind of the other way. He says get rid of all the guns.
Yeah, okay, that's fine.
That's one thing he's saying he's pushing for. And Alex Jones
got pissed.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't an American saying these things.
He went onto the show with the intent to completely not let Piers say anything. He's actually said stuff like that in the follow-up. So, yeah, I did exactly because I wasn't going to let him have a word head-wise.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what he does. Now, the problem is, and this is where a lot of the pro-gun completely screws themselves over, is Alex Jones made no sense and was basically blathering the whole time in bizarre conspiracy talk that made him look like a total nut that I don't want to have a gun.
Well, that's what I thought.
He made his entire cause look bad by espousing it.
Yeah, by the time he's done with this, I think everybody watching is going, that's a guy I don't want to have a gun. This is the reason we have gun laws, is blowhards like this. Yeah, absolutely.
And so, you see someone like this coming out telling you that the government's going to come and take over. And his response to questions, Morgan asked about the number of gun murders that were in Britain last year, and Alex Jones replies, "How many chimpanzees can dance on the head of a pin?"
Yeah, here's the thing. He tried to use standard debate technique. Don't answer the question that you're asked. Answer the question you want to answer, and that's pretty much what he did. And sometimes he did crazy shit like this, but he didn't want to answer any questions. All he wanted to do was sit there and yell at Piers Morgan. And
he didn't want to debate. He didn't want to actually have an exchange of any kind.
Right, and I don't know what Piers Morgan expected from this guy in the first place. He knew that this is what was going to happen, and unfortunately, it didn't make for good TV. By the time I was done with that, I was uncomfortable and irritated.
Yeah.
Given the age of the person he had on, he might have expected adult behavior, and not unreasonably.
No, if you heard the guy's radio show, I think you can. I mean, the stuff I've heard from him before, this is what I would have expected from him. He's not going to come onto a show like this and be rational. He already had it out for Piers Morgan. So why would you have expected that?
I'm here to tell you, 1776 will commence again if you try to take our firearms. We will not relinquish them. So is he blaming the entirety of Britain for trying to take firearms away from the U.S.?
I guess he's still mad about that.
I do not believe that that's actually an aim of the British Empire at this particular juncture.
He called him a redcoat at the end of it.
He did call him a redcoat.
Yes.
Which I note that when he refers to him as a redcoat, he's not only referencing the Revolutionary War, but he's also essentially calling him a communist as well, because he's tarring him with the same brush as Stalin and Mao and Fidel Castro.
Yeah, well,
he also mentioned Hitler in there.
yeah,
But
I know. And here's the thing: is that by the end of this, it was not good for Piers Morgan, and it was not good for Alex Jones. Because Piers Morgan couldn't control the situation on his own show, so he looked weak, and Alex Jones was incoherent and a blowhard.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will note, per a note on the on this article, a related article, it says that the petition to deport Piers Morgan has been dismissed.
Oh, okay, so
apparently he's no threat any longer.
But Piers Morgan made some allegations that, and he's right, depending on where you get the statistics, that violent crimes in places where they have more guns are lower. But it's kind of, I try to piece together two things to try and get an idea where we have the most violent crimes and the most guns. And there's places like South Carolina that kind of buck the trend, that have a moderate amount of guns and a lot of violent crime. So it didn't really follow the trend that he wanted to follow. He pointed out places like Mexico where they have low gun ownership and high violent crimes, but he chose not to take into account, deliberately so, I would imagine, any other factors that could be going on there. What is the poverty level? What are income levels? What are job levels? These things are nuanced, unfortunately. You can't just look at two statistics and say, there you go. You can't say, well, we now that everybody in Colorado is carrying a gun and violent crime has gone down, it's because of this.
Right.
So they're making correlations, and they aren't justifying the causation. Yes, they're showing two things have happened, but they aren't taking anything else into account when they make these judgment calls.
Now, what you put in here, I found interesting, because we're talking about South Carolina being like according to one in 2006, was the highest for crime rates per 100,000 population. And then you showed that as of 2006, they have like almost no real laws about guns.
No. Anybody can get a gun there. It's easy to get a gun in South Carolina if you're a citizen.
And there's definitely,
Or if,
what does that say? So.
Well, and that's what. But here's the thing: is that one of these? Yeah, I was trying to also correlate that with the U.S. crime rates, but they aren't the same years. But this is from 2006, and I don't know what's happened since then. I couldn't get up to date statistics. So, and they might be out there, but they weren't they weren't available to me in the 2 seconds I had.
Well, what you put out there definitely suggests that having the basic universal gun control makes sense and works, despite what people keep saying. Because, like the next one here,
right? But let me note that was the narrative I wanted to show.
Yeah.
Okay, so I am being just as insincere with statistics as everybody else. I made these correlations, right? But I can't make a causation there either. Okay.
But it goes perfect with the next one, where Senator Graham was busy talking about how, why do we need to tighten up the laws when things are being followed through, and saying that was almost 80,000 people failed a background check and 44 of those were prosecuted. Well, the police chief Edward Flynn came up and said, but that's a paperwork issue. We kept guns out of 80,000 people's hands. While we only were able to prosecute 44, we still kept them out of 80,000 people's hands.
But why?
That was significant.
Yeah, but why should they prosecute every one of these just because they failed the background check? I mean,
right.
I don't understand why.
And I don't know why that would be a good argument to not worry about the background checks.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm missing a piece there.
And that's the thing. The logic of, if we do, why do more background checks? Because criminals will still get a hold of guns. Like, okay, well then why pass laws that say you can't drink and drive? Because the criminals will still drink and drive. No, but it's been proven that in the states where they crack down on drunk driving, there is less incident of drunk driving. And so there's a logic saying, the criminals are still going to break the laws, but we have to have laws, and the laws do work. I know from my experience, when I worked at Walmart, I would help out in sporting goods. And I did, from time to time, actually do a gun sale. Most of the time, they were smooth. There was one time that was really weird, where they had me on hold for a half an hour, because basically the guy had a warrant out, and they had called the police on him. His father was keeping an eye out, however, and saw the police coming, and they vanished before the police could get him.
Right, but I guess it must be illegal for you to get to try and pass a background check if you know you won't pass. Is that what's going on here?
Well, in this case, he actually had a warrant out for him.
Right, but
not everybody who fails a background check has actually done something, has actually got a warrant out for them, or that has done something that they need to be prosecuted for.
Yes,
that's what it sounds
there's a large number of people who fail a background check who just simply can't pass a background check for other reasons.
Right, and so that's why I'm wondering is why should we be prosecuting more of these, or should it just be, well, okay, they didn't get a gun, so let's go on.
Well, but 80,000, how, I can understand the logic. It is going to be really hard to keep up with that number.
No, I don't think that they should. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm just not sure why this senator thought that they should be prosecuting all of these people.
Well, it was another one, trying to find logic as to why they should be against background checks. And I've not seen any logic presented that works that says we should cut back on background check. I have no problem with it. If I want to go and buy a gun, fine, do a background check on it. The time it takes is not going to make a significant difference. It's not going to hurt me any. If you are an honest citizen wanting a gun, you shouldn't have any problem with it.
No, and should you have to register that gun with the state?
Yeah. I have no problem with that either.
I don't either. I can't make a good argument for why you shouldn't have to. I have to register my car. Why not register guns the same way?
Right.
And that would make the transfer and sale easier too.
Yeah.
There'd be a way to facilitate it. So
I'm going to throw out here the simple fact that if guns are not available, people will kill each other with something else.
Well, to go back to Alex Jones, that's his point, is that more people get killed by knives every year.
Okay. You can't exactly make cooking knives illegal. People get killed by cooking knives.
Right.
You can make baseball bats illegal, but then how do people play baseball? And it doesn't take a baseball bat. You can pick up a damn rock.
Some people are going to make the argument that the gun only has one purpose: to kill. The cooking knife has its purpose is really to cook. It just so happens gets used to kill. The baseball bat is designed to be used in baseball. So, and not that I think that that's a particularly great argument.
It's not a good argument. To say that the gun only has one purpose, which is to kill, is to, I think it's to oversimplify things.
We could bring this back to some of these arguments that the Catholics make, that basically, the penis is designed to procreate, and that's all it should be used for.
Although one point is,
okay. Well, yeah. Next time I have to take a leak, however.
What other practical use is there for a gun, though? See, the knives. The knives have a practical use.
Listen, it can be used for recreation and sport too.
Yeah.
Because it is fun to go and shoot. I like shooting guns. Okay.
But I guess the argument that they'd throw back at you is that particular recreation and sport is simulated killing people.
I don't know, simulated, but
if you're a tree.
Easier to be dangerous with a gun than it is to be dangerous with a baseball bat and knives, per se, in mortal fashion.
I don't know about that. I think that there are probably some people out there playing amateur baseball who are probably is equally as unintentionally dangerous with a baseball bat as any skilled person with a gun.
If you let the baseball bat slip and it hits you, you're going to hurt, and it might depending on the force of it.
Actually, a baseball bat to the head is very likely to cause a subdural hematoma.
Actually, you know what?
Force of the blow.
Well, I think that baseball bats lead to steroid abuse.
But if you're playing baseball and you're in a situation where you're likely to get hit in the head with the bat, you're wearing protective gear. If the bat goes flying from the kid's hand, there's not that good of a chance it's going to cause serious damage if it hits someone. However, a gun, simply misused, has a good possibility of seriously injuring, if not killing someone. So there is a level there of, All
right. Well, Ian, where do you come down on the gun question? Where do you personally come down on it?
I believe in background checks. I believe in registering them. I believe in, monitoring them and making sure, hey, listen, be smart with them. You don't let. It's interesting how much people think they need guns. One of the laws that Obama actually passed that apparently the NRA and people are ignoring is he passed the law that allows people to carry concealed weapons in national parks.
Okay.
I'm trying to figure out why the hell anyone would need a concealed weapon in a national park.
Yeah,
Cougars.
well, but here's the thing: is that up until this
Cougars.
point, the only gun legislation he passed was pro-gun,
Yeah.
and quite frankly, it's not. They kept saying from the beginning that he wanted our guns and he wanted our guns, and he never really said anything like that. That the NRA and these gun manufacturers really just use it as a mean to sell guns because he never really said.
They tarred him with the same brush as they tar any liberal with.
Okay, right, but they really tarred him with it because he did make a comment somewhere down the line about the Second Amendment. So they used that. So they figured that this is part of his agenda the whole time. But really this is becoming a national agenda, and he's really irrelevant. You know, he can only push what he's being told to push at this point. And because the nation has decided that they want better gun control, and most people say that they're appalled that you can get a gun without a background check in the first place. So he's really irrelevant. It's just the NRA and people like that are trying to keep him relevant and say, see, it's Obama, it's Obama. But really, it's the nation saying, it's time to take a look at this and do something about it.
Well, like I said, I can't. Okay, national parks are not known for having gangs or anything.
Well, they have bears.
Cougars, bears,
cougars, and not and
badgers,
like cougars with 4 legs and hair, right? Not the other.
Yeah, I'm thinking the other type.
Okay.
Otherwise, they would be mandatorily recommending that younger guys carry a handgun.
Yeah.
But even that, the threats aren't that high. So it seemed one of those absurd things. Like, why is that an issue? Why do you need guns in such places? Yeah, you look at a lot of these people that are upset over any level of gun control. They want to carry it everywhere. And actually, Mac puts a few interesting ones about that. With the pizza place that gives you a discount if you walk in with a gun.
Okay. So what's your stance on, I know your stance on gun control now. What's your stance on pizza?
Pizza should be illegal. Actually, pizza is killing more people than guns.
That's true.
Yeah,
for that matter, what's your stance on waffles?
Waffles are killing more people than guns.
The chicken and waffle Lay's potato chips are not that good. I don't think they'll win.
What I'm referencing here is the woman shot by oven while trying to cook waffles.
Yeah.
I knew I had to stick that.
How the hell would you hide your gun? Or no, just the ammo itself.
Just your clip.
Why would you hide your ammo in an oven?
Well, because
I'm guessing he probably wasn't much of a cook around the house kind of guy.
Maybe I really thought you put your weed in there.
That'd make more sense. If that starts getting heated up, at least it'll calm you down. But yeah, Mac put a story in here about a 18-year-old Florida woman was at her best friend's house, and she was cooking, and this 25-year-old was storing his magazines for his gun.
Oh, stop! You are siloning, sir.
Yeah, you are.
I am?
Yep.
Yes.
By our command, you are.
Okay, let's pause. Sorry.
Okay.
Let's pause here because you were.
Okay.
All right, I don't know where we were. Start over and we'll.
So, anyways, the guy stored the magazines for his gun in the oven. What is the logic to that? They're not convenient. They're not. And it's definitely not the smartest place to hide them. I mean, hell, hide them in the refrigerator.
Yeah, I don't know.
Why?
No, you wouldn't want to. No, you can't put them in the refrigerator because of moisture.
But I'm thinking probably the person was not much of a cook around the house kind of guy.
Probably not.
So he probably didn't use the oven, and probably didn't think anybody was going to use the oven.
Well, how does he cook his hungry man then? Microwave.
We don't know a thing about how he survived, but apparently.
All right.
But to me, that's just. I mean, of all the hiding places, there are so many other places in the house that would make a lot more sense.
Oh, I love this. There's something wrong with the oven in this picture too, because the oven does not actually have a temperature gauge on it, so he just guesses based upon how far the knob is turned.
Well, that's fine. All right, talk about the pizza place.
Okay.
Well, we mentioned the pizza place briefly, but
yeah. Here it's simple. The guy was offering a 15% discount to anybody coming in wearing a gun, open carry, or had a concealed carry license. Good for him.
Yep. And he's taking pictures of the people with their guns, so he can put them up.
Good for him.
Seems a bit silly, but hey, I have no problem with the basic concept of it.
Well, okay, now for stupid laws.
But the thing is, if I come in there with my bow, do I get a discount for coming in there with my bow?
No.
It's not a concealed weapon.
Yeah, it's not a concealed weapon. Of course, he said
neither
open
is
carry.
This lady's,
he said
not
open
it,
carry.
Neither is this lady's shotgun.
No, he said gun, so it's not a gun. Okay, stupid law. Georgetown, stupid law.
Okay, you're talking about the Kennesaw?
Yes.
The Kennesaw, Georgia mandatory gun?
Yeah.
Requiring each head of household to keep and maintain a firearm. Why is that a stupid law, Ryan?
I should mandatory. I should be required to have a firearm now.
The interesting thing is they talk about how unconstitutional everything is. Wouldn't it be just as unconstitutional to tell you have to?
Yes.
It's like why?
It's a right to bear arms. It's not an obligation.
Yeah, that's like telling me I got to wear boxers or briefs.
Yeah, but if you're going to say something stupid, I want to know why you think it's stupid.
Because because it shouldn't be mandatory for me to have a gun. If I'm a pacifist or I'm I'm just fucking scared of guns.
What's more, it's one of those weird things where conservative ideas, fighting big government or promoting big government, because that is big government. If the government comes in and says you have to buy something, it's like, wait a moment. It's one of those contradictory things that it sounded like it was more to try and make a point than to actually.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that. I heard the same
thing. You said something about being a pacifist.
Is that what babies suck on? No, that's a pedophile.
That's a line from Red versus Blue, and it's fantastic. Oh, you've been a pedophile.
And then, of course, Mac threw the one up here about smart gun technology, which
and this I found this interesting.
Is this the one from? Oh no, this isn't Slate. I had put a Slate article in here about this. I thought we talked about the safer guns, the smart gun that can tell your grip and stuff like that.
Yeah, but I guess my question is, if you take this smart gun on your hand and you're preparing to use it, do you have to say, "I am the law"? Referencing Judge Dredd. No, the one that I was looking at actually could tell by the placement of your fingers and stuff like that and your grip. So it was a biometric thing.
It was it could measure biometrics. Yep. And it wouldn't fire unless the gun fit. Okay. And they said that it was 99.999%,
if the gun doesn't fit, you must acquit.
Oh God. All right.
Hey, I'm having pop reference night.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. I'm so fatigued by this whole thing. Listen, there's no good answer. The problem is the statistics are being abused, like I was able to abuse them, right? I just picked some stuff that showed what I wanted to show, right? Both were valid statistics, right? But is there a correlation? Well, I can't logically, I could make one, right? But it's not real. Right? It's anomalous data. So that's part of what the problem here is. I don't think that we have great statistics on what they want to show. So they have to create a narrative based on, existing statistics, and they have to throw out all the other factors, and I think that income and poverty probably make a huge portion of the equation here that they just completely ignore. They take the two facts into consideration: violent crime and gun ownership. Nothing else. Well, you can't do that, right? And that's one thing that this guy did, Alex Jones. Have you seen the FBI's data? I showed you the FBI's data. Yeah, well, okay, but did they factor in everything? The answer is generally no. I didn't see the FBI data he's talking about. I couldn't.
Well, stuff like Washington D.C. is one of the most violent places, and poverty is not that big of a deal there, but there's a lot more going on. They have a high violent crime rate, and it's been difficult to get a gun there. So there you go. So that now he's backed up. So then we're going to finish off with the Cracked article. Love the Cracked article. This one talks about 3 reasons it's time to stop taking the NRA seriously, and my follow-up to that is, and somehow Ted Nugent is not one of them.
Well, apparently neither is the lack of Charlton Heston.
Yeah. But the number 3 one is the NRA doesn't represent most gun owners. They're saying about 90% of gun owners are not involved with the NRA.
Right? Did you guys know I'm a lifetime member to the NRA?
Seriously?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Do you take them seriously?
No, hell no. It was purchased for me. It was a gift.
Okay. And basically, it talks about how a large majority of the NRA members support criminal background checks and don't necessarily agree with the NRA stances on a lot of this stuff.
How can you not agree with background checks? I don't. That one boggles
me. Comes up. That's part of the next few things. Many of the NRA members join just to join gun clubs. They actually are not backing a lot of what the NRA is saying. The NRA has set up these exclusive gun clubs that you can join only if you're NRA members.
There is a lot of other good stuff actually that the NRA does do as far as certifications and stuff like that. When I took my course on guns, it was from an NRA instructor. So there is this political wing of the NRA, but then there's all this other stuff that they do that's actually worth having. So they're not. I mean,
then the number one is the NRA really represents gun manufacturers, and that's one of the reasons why they're fighting the background checks, is because the gun industry's giving them a lot of money to become a political aspect of things instead of being what they really are supposed to be about. So, and that's where a lot of the problems come in. The NRA is not what it's supposed to be.
Well, that's a judgment call, because what is it supposed to be? Well, it's supposed to be whatever the people that are in charge of it make it, and they have made it a lobbyist group, and so that is what it's supposed to be.
Well, they've made a lobbyist group, and a lot of people are still members, so apparently the people who are still members are fine with it being a lobbyist group.
Well, but that's not what it's created for, and that's not what ideally it should be about if it wants to be effective.
The problem with arguments like what you're making, I can go back and say, well, I mean, this country was founded on slavery.
Now, and I can make an argument that the membership of the NRA is fine with what it is right now, which is a lobbyist group, and the members, the larger number of members, should be the ones who define what the organization is, not what the organization used to be. Here's a perfect argument for that. What do you want Boy Scouts to be?
That's exactly what I was about to bring up. The argument you're making doesn't quite work, because Boy Scouts is not, I think right now there is a fair amount of people involved in Boy Scouts that want to change it. But the leadership is saying, no, we don't want to change it because we like things the way they are. Okay. And at that point, Boy Scouts isn't what it should be, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, but again, it's a total judgment call. I mean, I appreciate why you would make such a judgment.
But the argument, to me, that's the same argument with the NRA. It's not what it should be, and it even says a lot of the members don't agree with the policies of it. But like Brian was saying, there are some good aspects to it that are useful that people like and enjoy. And so they want to take advantage of it, even if they might have an issue with where the organization's headed and what it's doing. So I don't think Mac's right here in saying that the NRA is exactly what its members want it to be.
Well, and that's probably, you know what, I think that's a fair point. I mean, listen, they used to be about hunter safety. that was one of their big things, is hunter safety. When's the last time I heard about hunter safety from the NRA? I could show you the emails I get from the NRA. They're scary.
And I think the majority of the members of the NRA are probably more like you, and are saying, like, I don't want to hear about this stuff. It bothers me, but I'm a member because there are advantages to it. There are things that I get out of it that I think are worthwhile.
I do get good information on laws that are trying to be passed all around the country, though. And so that's one good reason to keep that membership, is I get a lot of good information.
Do you get good information, or do you get biased information?
Okay, well, let me put it this. When I say good, I get a sense for what people are trying to pass. Yeah, it's completely biased. I mean, I can pretty much look at that and go, well, like even they oppose every single gun law that's going through the Colorado State Legislature, because that's just their position, right? It's a straight out oppose every gun, anti-gun measure. Just oppose it straight across the board. It doesn't matter if it's reasonable or not with them. It's just oppose it. And I would say that, I mean, and that's the information I get from them, right? This is what you need to oppose this week. So you're right, it's biased, but I was able then to go and look at the laws and make my own analysis. But is everybody doing that? I guess would be more to your point. So no, it's not good information. It's biased in that respect. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah.
No, yeah, but I wanted to ask the question.
Committee, we're talking about gun control and looking at a thing right now. A committee passed a ban on high-capacity magazines of 15 rounds or more.
Okay, I'm good with that. I see, once again, I think that is fairly reasonable. If 15 bullets seems like,
if you're not going to kill somebody in 15 bullets, you're not going to kill them.
Well, yeah, you shouldn't be in that situation in the first place. So here you go.
Okay, so Sean, we're ready to talk about your friend Pat Robertson.
The religious moron.
I'm perfectly ready to talk about Pat Robertson.
Excellent.
Yeah, it's interesting because the first article you put up here, even though I obviously you came up with your own little headline for it, was exactly the same as soon as I saw you were talking about Pat Robertson. Oh yeah, he did that secondhand clothes bringing thing.
Yeah, they basically I had to jump on this, and I'm gonna make the point here. You're talking about him being a religious moron. I'm thinking that he's just somebody who is crazy for publicity, and he'll say anything for publicity. But the fact that he's religious is no different than, you can't judge other religious people by the stuff that he says, crazy though it may be.
I honestly think he believes he's old enough, and he doesn't, if you look at him talking, I don't think he's sitting there thinking, oh, how do I make, this sound more, crazy. I think he actually just starts talking about what he believes.
Whether he believes it or not, it's no different than, Rush Limbaugh jumping on the air and inciting people to riot, because he's an entertainer.
Rush Limbaugh is smarter than Pat Robertson.
Yeah.
Well, Rush Limbaugh is right 100% of the time. So he said
so. Yes.
But I think Rush Limbaugh is more into manipulating everything. I think Pat Robertson just kind of starts talking out of his ass.
Remember that this is a guy who believes in faith healing. He was a faith healer. He believes this kind of nonsense.
Let's touch upon what the article's actually about, which is the fact that basically somebody consulted him about sweaters or clothing from the Goodwill, and his stated belief is that items from the Goodwill or from thrift stores can have demons attached to them. And he basically went on to say that people will intentionally invoke demons into things to hurt other people.
He said stuff like this before, so it's par for the course. It stems from his religious beliefs.
So basically, when you go to a thrift store, you need to take a thing of holy water with you and just kind of bless the stuff as you walk by it.
Well,
I think it's worthwhile. I think that we might want to follow up on this by actually, individually going out to thrift stores and finding out what sort of protections they have against, demonic objects. Finding out what sort of provisions they're making. I think it's reasonable.
I think there's a salt barrier around every store.
Well, it's worth checking.
No, but here's a guy who also said
when we walk in.
He said that Haiti would deserve their earthquake because
they made the deal with the devil all those years ago.
It was a pretty hateful thing for him to say.
Yeah, so here's the thing, is that you'd like to say he's just an old coot, but he is a religious moron. He has been saying this kind of stuff for years.
Idiot
it's par for the course.
Who happens to bring out his idiocy through religion.
He's not an idiot.
Okay, not an idiot, but you said he was a moron.
I'm saying he's a religious moron. Yeah, but I'm not saying he's an idiot.
Do you judge other religious people by him? Or do you judge him by himself?
I judge them by the stupid things that they say.
Makes sense.
If you guys listen to the Thinking Atheist this week, he had a discussion with a Methodist preacher. I don't know. And it was interesting in that this guy, every question that they posed to him, about the usual kinds of things to try and debunk religion, he's like, yeah, could be. The Methodists are like Christian light.
Oh yeah,
I couldn't disagree with anything the guy said.
The strongest rite of the Methodist Church is a potluck.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's like yeah. So everything he was like, yeah, that could be. Yeah, I could be wrong. And he was a great guy, right? I can't. There's no way for me to disagree with him. He was a great guy. And he wasn't a religious moron. He was pretty objective about, yeah, I could be wrong, right? So there was no reason for me to call him a religious moron. I still disagree with him about God, but yeah, he's a guy you can sit down and have a conversation with, and afterwards you're not pissed off because it's like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, your beliefs are your beliefs, and we're not going to judge other people. I mean, it's like, wow. So yeah, I judge religious morons based on the moronity that they put out, not based all on the moronity that Pat Robertson puts out.
Sam just brought me out something of interest. She was talking about there may possibly be drug residue and stuff that goes to thrift stores, and that drug residue could possibly give people symptoms of...
How? They are washing these clothes before they go to those racks. How is the drug residue surviving the wash? Is it that strong?
Meth residue is pretty strong.
And you're assuming that meth addicts are giving clothes to the Goodwill?
Not assuming anything. I'm just
Brian,
putting that out for consideration.
Okay.
Brian, they don't wash them. They actually,
My understanding is that Goodwill washes them before they hit the clothing rack. How could they not?
because the donations are being dropped off there. They don't have a washer in there.
That's not true. The donations are being dropped off to locations, and then they ship them
The
out to
donations
the
are
stores.
going all over town. They're being dropped off at a location, but they're being distributed all over town.
I don't know how they
If you
could
drop
sell those
something
things.
off at one Goodwill, you're not necessarily going to see it at that same Goodwill.
But still, they don't actually wash them.
I hope to God you are wrong.
I'm not on this. If
No, how could that possibly be? How could that even be sanitary?
Well, they look through, and if they see something nasty, that gets thrown out. But if it's, nothing obvious, they put it on the shelf. The idea is you buy it, you're going to wash it before you wear it.
Goodwill washes clothes before they sell them. You are a liar.
Huh?
We're going to have to check on this, I guess.
I have 10 facts about the Goodwill. It's from goodwill.wordpress.com. Bite me.
Now, another thing about Pat Robertson, though, is apparently Pat Robertson lost us the Super Bowl. Did you know about that?
And I didn't care.
Because he cursed Peyton Manning because Peyton Manning was not Tim Tebow.
Here's the thing. Elway didn't like him from the beginning.
Peyton Manning or Tim Tebow?
Tim
or Pat
Tebow.
Robertson?
Tim Tebow was not staying if Elway was in charge.
I was kind of hoping you were going to say Pat Robertson.
This had nothing to do with Tim Tebow's religious convictions, like they would like to imply.
So you think that there's no truth to the rumor that Tim Tebow is a genetically engineered Christian sent from the future?
And gay. While we're making rumors,
yeah,
let's make one that might be true.
See, I would debate you on the Goodwill thing, because
There's no way. It would not be sanitary. I don't think they could legally do it without washing those things first.
the Goodwill site claims they do.
Yes. So, there you go.
Well, but that in itself doesn't necessarily,
Well, hold on a second now. If you're saying that the Goodwill says this, but you can't prove that it's true, all that is, unless you've got proof to the contrary, is nothing but conspiracy theory.
Well, there you go. See, and you guys are spreading the same exact conspiracy theory by saying they don't wash them. But at least I have a source. Ian's saying they don't wash them.
I'm saying,
And I'm saying that I have a source that says you're a liar.
And that's the Goodwill themselves claiming.
Well?
Sarah actually helped out at a thrift store.
A thrift store.
Was it a thrift store or was it the Goodwill?
It was a thrift store. So Goodwill in itself might be different.
Okay. We have no evidence at this point to contradict the Goodwill's statement that they wash their clothes before they put them out. But go ahead.
Yeah, continue.
So my understanding is thrift stores in general do not wash them. They look through them and throw the nasty stuff out, but they put them straight out with the idea that you'll have enough sense to wash them when you get home.
Well,
I do have enough sense to wash them. But I believe they were also washed at the store. I just washed them again for good measure.
Yeah, I doubt that you're. And you've got a
new
little
clothes from
anecdote
Walmart
that
them.
you're spreading here, and it would seem stupid to put unwashed clothes on a rack.
They assume that it's a hard one to do either way. But my understanding is they don't. You're saying that just because the Goodwill site says they do, that doesn't necessarily mean they do.
Anyway, whether they wash the clothes or not doesn't have any bearing on whether they have demons in them or not.
Well, but it might have to do with drug residue.
It could.
But I'd still like to know more about meth residue and if it won't survive a washing. And I'd also like to know how dangerous meth residue is and in what concentrations.
So we now have a whole other topic for a future show where we can debate this issue.
Yep.
Complete and utter dud.
Anyway, I put in the document some other Pat Robertson quotes and controversies. So.
Yeah. I mean, he is a wealth of stupidity.
Yep. A national resource of it. He's like our national Fort Knox of stupidity. He's like Fort Moron. By the way, here's an interesting thing. Did you know that there is a North American national repository for maple syrup?
Okay.
Yeah, I heard something about that.
I believe that it's probably called Fort Log Cabin or Fort Jemima is my personal belief, but I don't have any evidence of that.
Here's an interesting fact. The Earth has a North Pole and a South Pole and is an oblong spheroid.
That is an interesting fact.
Yeah.
Did you guys watch my video on 5 stupid things about chiropractic? And I also put one up about weddings.
I did watch some of it.
Yeah.
Actually, I found the official Goodwill site, and I was looking at different sites I thought was official. This one says, when you donate, do wash and clean clothes. So they want you to wash them before you give them to them.
So they're not. So now you're claiming they don't wash them first?
This is on the official Goodwill site.
Yeah, they just say they want you to do that. That doesn't mean they don't wash them.
Even if they wash them, it's still not a bad idea for them to ask for you to give them clean clothes in the first place.
How much drug residue are we talking about? Are they taking these clones home and smoking them?
Well, my understanding, if you work in a meth lab, you get a lot of chemicals on you.
Well, yeah, I mean they have to go in and strip the
yeah.
the sheetrock out of it when that happens.
Yeah. So if it's from people making the meth, the clothes are probably pretty.
So now you're telling me that everybody who sells at the Goodwill is a meth dealer.
Yeah, but those would most likely get thrown out. You'd think. I can't see those not being stained and noticeably nasty.
I have issues with the idea of the drug residue on the clothes. I mean, how strong has it got to be?
It's worth looking into.
Okay. So I put these 2 videos up here because this guy is just awesome. He hates everything, and I love him for it. But he's really good at being very poignant. And he does everything. He does Ross Perot, Barack Obama, ghosts, everything. And the chiropractic one was pretty good, and I really felt like this really sums up my venom towards chiropractic. And he covers it really well. And basically it comes down to, chiropractic was invented. It wasn't, like discovered that this thing worked. That the fact that it happens to, have some, be pleasurable to your back and make you feel better is nothing compared to the bogus argument that it stems from in the beginning. And so I just thought it was great. But the one about weddings is even better. And my favorite argument from this is how stupid thank you notes are. Ian, you had a wedding.
I had a wedding too. You were there.
Yeah, it's true, but we didn't
give
you
gifts.
You were
at both of my weddings.
Yeah, that's true. I don't think I gave you a gift.
I honestly don't remember.
I don't know.
You gave me a gift.
Did I?
It was your presents.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. And did you write me a thank you note for that?
No, we didn't do any thank you notes. I'm not big on
you just said thank you notes are stupid.
They are absolutely incredibly stupid. Ian, did you get a bunch of gifts that you were expected to write thank you notes for?
I don't know if we were expected to or not. We didn't.
But you didn't. See that? Okay, so here's the thing. My wife, after she had her wedding shower, my dad put this thing on. She didn't send out thank you notes right away, and he was very upset that she didn't do this archaic bullshit. You're there. You thank them for the gift. Why do you need a thank you note?
Yeah.
Do you have to be thanked twice? Do you have to have it in writing?
Well, that's basically what thank you notes practically are.
Oh, God. Ridiculous. Ridiculous. Thank you notes are stupid. So, I really like this guy, the 5. I mean, he's very good at really picking out he picks out like 5 essential things that are just stupid about different things. And the chiropractic one, I really kind of summed up the nonsense that is chiropractic. Even though for certain types of lower back pain, it does help relieve pain. And we've been over that. That's fine. But it's this idea that they're looking for these subluxations that only chiropractors can see, and this idea that there's no such thing as disease. It's just that you can cure all these ailments by manipulating the spine. It's the fact that these chiropractors are anti-vaccine, which he doesn't even go into. He doesn't hit that point. That would have been one of my 5. Is the anti-vaccine nonsense that comes out of the chiropractic. So, and I kind of liked his summary. In the end, it's like, listen, there are other things that you can do. It's basically, getting a massage. So you can go get a massage, or you can go to an actual doctor to get this done. You can go to somebody to get your back fixed that doesn't think that they can also cure your allergies.
Yeah.
So, And that's really how I feel about chiropractic. It's based on this piece of nonsense, and it's no better than other things that are probably, less likely to do harm. Go get the massage. So that, but on the other hand,
misogynistic.
Yeah, well, but on the other hand, the chiropractic adjustment is nice because it's very quick, and I don't want somebody touching me for that long to give me a massage. I don't want to be touched. So maybe the chiropractic is better. I'm conflicted. This is going to be a hell of a fun episode to edit here, isn't it? and actually, I'm having a frustration with a vendor, and I'm already on edge, and it's probably coming through. So, all right.
So, title for this episode?
Yeah, let's just end it there.
Patty's got a gun.
Yeah. So there you go. So we muddled gun legislation. We dissed Pat Robertson, and I found this really awesome guy who finds 5 stupid things about everything and is awesome. Anything else, guys?
Okay.
Yeah. So that is a successful episode. Hopefully, but I did want to.
Kimberly's going to be bummed that she didn't get to talk about.
Oh yeah, boy, she's going to be bummed. We got a lot of good feedback. Enough good feedback about the scam stuff that we did last week. So thank you everybody who wrote on the website, and thanks Dumbass for. We've had a little bit of a back and forth of how crappy Windows 8 is, and it feels good to hate on Windows 8 with somebody else.
By the way, a piece of scam I happened to personally encounter today.
Oh,
and this is a scary thing for a lot of people if they don't know what it is in advance. I happen to bump into your computer has been locked by the Department of Justice.
Oh shit! Yes, that scam is still out there too. Yeah.
Yep. And you must pay a $300 fine in money packs, which you may purchase at Kmart, in order to get your computer unlocked by the Department of Justice.
Wow.
Yeah, and you have to wire them the money through Western Union or something like that. And
no, you buy money packs.
Oh, okay.
You buy money packs at Kmart.
That's the new thing.
Yeah, and fortunately, it got through the sandboxed browser, but fortunately, it did not get deep into the computer because of the sandboxed browser.
That is lucky that happened. Because those things, some of them encrypt your hard drive. You're done.
Mm-hmm.
But you can find the unlock codes. They're not that you can find them online if there's any real problem. A lot of times that somebody has hacked it already and put out the code.
Yep.
But we do enjoy feedback, so we got a Facebook page, we got the website itself. You can email us all, so feel free to send us any feedback you have.
Yep, absolutely.
I don't think we've made it yet because we still haven't had anyone come out and tell us how worthless we are or anything.
We haven't made it.
I think we have made it because we get more spam than anything at this point.
Oh my God! Well, yeah.
I think we need to start publishing these pieces of spam and addressing them as reader comments.
Aren't some of those great on there because it's like, hey, I really enjoyed the pieces of your site, yada yada yada, and in their name was the URL to their page selling their Viagra.
By the way, I came up with a new word which is going to be going into wide usage.
Well, be careful about this because I thought Fustry was going to be huge, and
no, this one's going to be big. It's hypochondria. I have information on it on my blog, but hypochondria is the condition you get when you're driving down the street and somebody else's car starts rattling and you start wondering if it's yours. Or when you can, and this happened, this is when I actually invented the word. I'm driving on Sunday, and I'm on my way out across town, and I start smelling the unmistakable smell of either burning clutch or burning brakes. And if you ever smell it, you know exactly what it smells like.
Yeah.
And I'm going blocks and blocks in the car, and I'm still smelling it. And I get up on the highway, and I'm still smelling it. I'm thinking, I don't feel anything dragging, and the car's, I'm applying as much gas as normal. I'm not having to apply extra gas to get up to 50 miles an hour. What's going on here? And I'm thinking, okay, if I'm still smelling it at the next exit, I'm going to pull off. I'm going to go back home. I'm going to check the car out. And then the car ahead of me pulled off the highway, and suddenly it was gone.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what, that's in no way better than Fustry. Fustry was awesome. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you for listening to the Amateur Skeptics Podcast. For more information about the Amateur Skeptics, go to amateurskeptics.com. To send us feedback, suggestions, or big flaming insults, feel free to contact us at WTF@amateurskeptics.com. Other contact information can be found on our website.
You can leave a voicemail for the Amateur Skeptics podcast at 720-295-7785. Music for this podcast was provided by OFM. To find out more about OFM, go to myspace.com/OFMHQ. This podcast is released under a Creative Commons, No Derivatives 3.5 license. Thank you for listening to the Amateur Skeptics podcast.
Amateur Skeptics website, Facebook, and podcast album art is provided by and copyright Shadow Knight Digital Portraiture. Larger prints or custom pieces are available upon request.